Welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and inside this feature product video, very excited to show you an awesome storage solution for ISS Vanguard. Now, ISS Vanguard comes from Awakened Realms. This is the all-in pledge for it, and the insert that I'm showing you today is from Tinkering Paws. Now, if you've heard of those inserts before, they make custom-made inserts to get these larger size all-in pledges down to something consolidated that actually can fit in a smaller space. So instead of having all these boxes going onto your Calyx or other storage shelf that you may have, instead you just get down to a couple of boxes. And that's exactly what this insert's going to do. It's going to take all of these, reduce it down to 2, and actually there's even one box which isn't even in screen right now, and that is the sleeve box, because the insert from Tinkering Paws also accommodates all the cards being sleeved. So the 6 here plus the 1 for the sleeve box, a total of 7 being condensed down to just 2. Once you have the insert populated, these are the 2 boxes they'll go back inside of, and then you can simply go ahead and place this one on top of this one, and you're able to slide it straight into your Calyx shelf and inside of a single space with room to spare on top as well. And just to give you some context in terms of how much space the all-in pledge takes up when it's not consolidated and it's also using the standard inserts that came as part of the crowdfunding campaign, it takes up about 2 to 2.5 cubes of space on a Calyx shelf, which is a lot of space. And that's mainly because the boxes are of varying sizes and widths, so it's very tough to kind of get them into a compact area. But with this insert, that's all been taken into account, and these 2 boxes remaining can be stacked on top of each other, then turned sideways, still horizontal, flat on the table, and then slotted straight into a Calyx. So I just wanted to mention that just so you have an appreciation as to what this thing can do for you from space-saving purposes on your game shelf. And if you're interested in this insert right now already, I've got in the pinned comment and video description a standard 5% off coupon. I also have a 10% off coupon for specifically ISS Vanguard up until August 8th. So if you actually use both of those coupons combined up until August 8th, you get a total of 15% off your order. That's just a thank you to the community to be able to get you guys this insert in your hands at a lower cost. Now, without further ado, let's actually dive into this box. I want to show you both of them actually to show you exactly how this storage solution works and how it looks. We'll head right into the core box first, and here's a look at the top section, which houses a number of card trays. You're also going to see a number of empty spaces here throughout the insert. Again, remember, it accommodates sleeve cards, and I do have all the sleeves from the campaign as well. I just haven't actually gotten around to sleeving this yet, but once you do, you'll have more than enough space to accommodate all those 100 micron sleeves across the entire thing. That includes all the expansions as well. Now, as most of you are well aware at this point in time, as ISS Vanguard's been out for some time, the game itself comes with its own dividers, which I still use even in this insert because they actually are very cool and do a really good job of dividing things up. But this insert does take it one step further by giving you dividers that can break things out from the core game versus the expansions. In other words, it's going to allow you to differentiate the same types of cards across the expansions, which further allows you to organize your cards as you wish. So you can actually keep Deadly Frontier expansion content organized in its own area, along with Lost Fleet in a different area, and the core game, for instance, right here. So really the core game is what you're seeing on this top level right now, and there's room for sleeving across the board. So all these can expand out and fill out this top section. And in the other box, you're going to see where it's broken out into the Deadly Frontier and Lost Fleet areas where they can be sleeved and stored and have their own dividers. And even though the retail versions of those expansions come with a divider or two, the ones that come with this Tinkering Paws insert really kind of go a step beyond what was even in the original packaging. Here's a top-down look at all of the different trays inside of this. That's one thing that I've noticed with this insert is there's a lot of trays which allow for a lot of different customization options in terms of where you place your cards and how you organize them, which I really appreciate. And getting back to the custom nature of this insert, you can actually see how each of the miniatures have their own specific spot for them to rest inside of to keep them locked in their position so they don't go anywhere. The only way they're going to fall out of this thing is if you flip the box completely over. If you've seen the tray design from previous inserts from Tinkering Paws, you'll know that they use a track system along the bottom here where the miniatures slide straight in. So when you want one, you just simply pull it out, and when you want to put it back in, it slides in. But this allows the tray to be turned in many different angles without having to worry about anything falling out of it. Of course, if you were to tip it so that you actually have these ends going down, that's the only way that things would fall out. But the way that they're actually slid into this insert, that's not going to happen. Now, something else you'll notice as you take a look across the insert is it's structurally built in a way and designed in a way to ensure that the box lid rests on top and it's supported, but also not so that it comes down deep enough to bend any dividers. So everything's been taken into account where the dividers will all sit underneath of the high edges of the top layer of the insert. And again, that's going to provide that structural support for the box lid to sit on top, but not crushing any of the cards or dividers below. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the point of an insert, especially a good one, is not just to organize things or consolidate things down to a smaller amount of boxes. It's also to make it playable so you can instantly pull trays out and get things set up and have things situated in a certain way to make the whole gameplay experience easier. And as you can see, when these trays come out, they can instantly be used individually when needed for different gameplay aspects, and then, of course, picked up and put away very quickly. The insert accommodates all the different sizes of cards, so it has different sizes of trays, whether rectangular, square, for standard size cards, mini cards, or even longer tarot size cards. And all these are going to kind of come out of the insert as I continue on to show you what's underneath. And then you can also see sometimes it gets real creative in terms of how they're stacking and storing things, where trays will actually be situated inside of grooved areas so that they can actually be basically placed on top of each other and kept compact in a way that they're not going to go anywhere inside the box. So obviously with the standees, those things can go all over the place. So there's designated spaces for them to rest in between different levels of trays to ensure that they're not going anywhere. So we'll take a moment and go through this tiered tray here. So we got the top tray, which then has this tray underneath of it, and then underneath that, another tray, and then underneath that, we have more. So again, you can organize these however you want. So you can organize it so that one expansion's in one tray, another expansion's in another tray. You can mix and match things based on the token size. You have the options to do what you wish. Also on the Tinkering Paws site, there's a full video as well as a full PDF to show you how they put everything inside the box, making the whole process of filling the insert that much easier. And again, the best part about this insert is that you don't have to construct it in any way, shape, or form beyond just populating it with the stuff you own. Now, I'm going to attempt to show you something I think is rather cool. I don't know if the lighting will allow me to actually show you this, but I want to show you how snug of a design this really is. It's pretty awesome. So everything over here in terms of the shipbook and everything else that's squared off on this side, but these trays right here are literally snug right up against the binder, which has been filled in a way to keep it as a perfect square, which is actually pretty awesome. And then the trays literally interlocking with themselves down below here. So I don't know if you can see this quite well, but the design of this particular one right here, if you pull this straight out to get those miniatures, you're going to see it's cut in a way that has a groove here on the corner, which is literally keeping this tray right here locked in position so it doesn't slide down. You can see there's a divot there, that corner. So when this goes back in, it simply goes right into that location again and slides right in, keeping it locked in nice and tight. Now, I'll mention this as I continue on here, but just as enjoyable as it was to actually place everything in here for the very first time, and it actually is a very satisfying process to do it, and also turfing all those extra boxes that are unnecessary, the fact that everything's organized in a way that you know is going to make getting this game to the table easier and less of a headache, and also just ready to go the second the box lid comes off, makes you want to play the game that much more. And I can't tell you enough how many people will say, well, an insert's not necessarily worth the cost. I'd say the opposite. I'd say that certain inserts, if it's for your favorite game, are absolutely worth the cost, because if it can make you come back to that game more often because it's a joy to actually pull out and put back in, and everything has its space and it's organized and condensed well, it makes you want to get into the experience in the future rather than it being a pain or a slog to get through. Here's some crew member stuff. We got some trays for them, specifically different types, different colors as you remember from the core game. And again, broken into ranked sleeves. And also you have your section cards behind those. Basically only what's needed for space in these ones, but there's enough space for them to be sleeved as well. And then over here in the far right-hand corner, we have the landers. We have the threats and the reference cards, the larger ones. Again, room for sleeves on those. And you'll start to see tokens on the right there and a whole layer on the bottom of dice. So we basically reach the bottom of the box here on the right-hand side as we get into tokens and different markers, and we get towards the dice area. Again, these token holders can be just pulled right out, placed on the game table, and they're ready to go. And you've got individual trays for each of the different types or colors of dice, which is awesome. Again, you grab what you need when you need it, or you can simply leave these trays at the very bottom of the box and get going into gameplay right away. Now we'll take a look down this section of the box. So I've removed the shipbook out. There's also some things inside of it and how it's stored I want to show you. But for right now, you can see the dashboards are here. There's 2 and then 2. This provides a nice flat square base for the shipbook to sit on top of. And then, of course, underneath, basically the books for the game that are coil bound. And they're kind of offset to each other. One coil bound on one side, another coil bound on the other side. And then, of course, different rule books on top. So the first handful here are basically just the rule books that are not coil bound. There's also a number of the different smaller books underneath, which we can go ahead and remove out of there. And then it really just gets into those coil bound ones I mentioned. You'll see on one side here, another Planetopedia over here, and there's another one below that. And that leads you right to the bottom of the box. Here's a look at the shipbook, and essentially you open up the shipbook. The point of this is to make it into a square, and it's not going to be a square if there's nothing at the back end of the book, because when you close it, it turns more into a triangle with a slant. So if you actually place these operations books, of which you should have at least 3, they actually bulk things up quite a bit, and you can place them at the back, and when you actually close this binder, it's actually pretty ingenious how this is done, then you can actually make it more of a square. You keep room for the actual 3-ring binder and all of its contents, but it basically just lays right on top like this, and it's a perfect square, and then things rest on top of this, and it provides a nice platform. You have all the things inside of this binder stored that you would need to move on, whether you're inside of the core experience here with this operations book, you're heading into the Lost Fleet logbook, or you're getting all the way down here to the Deadly Frontier. And of course, the things you need for each of them are underneath, all in a nice even stacked pile. So when you start placing things back inside the box to build the insert back up, you're going to have the spine of the binder on this side because it's completely flat and flush, and that's going to allow all the towers of these different trays to start stacking up along the right-hand side and then eventually start going across the shipbook. So you just continue to keep stacking different trays inside of this, and as you can see, it's quite easy, just laying them one on top of the other, placing them inside and sliding them in, and they're going to fit nice and snug to make sure they're not going to go anywhere. And just the way the insert's designed, everything's going to have its place. So it's almost like they're interlocking with each other. You know, the miniatures go in next here. They're going to lock things into place even further. And then, of course, this new cutout is going to be filled out with this final miniature tray right here, which is going to go down here and lock in. And just like that, you've got everything on that right-hand side back in. And as you continue to fill in the insert, it is a very satisfying process. You simply just placing these boxes in and you're dropping them in one at a time. And you can just see things just dropping in super easy, and it just lays nice and flat because of the way the binder has been structured. Everything has its place all the way through. And again, everything is kind of keeping things connected to ensure it's not going to move around. The pieces just move right into place. It's actually really satisfying. Like, I don't know if there's anything quite like it when you start seeing something like this kind of come together in a way that stores your game perfectly. It's really, really satisfying on that front because once it's all inside the box and you've got it all organized, and the next time you're ready to go ahead and play, it is ready to go. This cannot be beat from anything else that I've seen. This is the storage solution that you would want in an ISS Vanguard campaign. That does it for the core box. Let's head into the second box that's necessary for the insert. Now this, for me personally, is when the inserts dividers really come out and shine, and that is when you start mixing in the Deadly Frontier and Lost Fleet expansions into their own areas. So you have a whole row here, which is designated to Deadly Frontier, and then below Lost Fleet, simply divided by DF or LF at the front of each of the dividers, and then with the mini cards, same thing, LF down here, DF over here, and you'll see blank spaces all the way around here because everything can be sleeved. Now, I have extra dice in here. These actually got replaced from the fancier dice I got from the campaign, so these wouldn't actually normally be stored here. They'd normally be taken out and put elsewhere because this space would be needed for cards when they start getting sleeved up. But for now, because I haven't actually sleeved everything, there's space for dice to be chucked inside there, and there's still additional room in here. So if you're not a sleever, you'll have lots of space. If you are a sleever, then you're going to have to find a spot for some of these extras. But to be completely honest, if you didn't buy extra dice, price, you won't have any issues. So I'll quickly show you some of the trays in the back because the miniatures are housed in those, and seeing how those are actually locked in is quite nice. So for the bigger guys, you'll see they're down their own track. And again, they're going to provide that upper top level support when they're placed into their slot. Again, if you need them, you just simply grab the tray, pull it out. Very easy. And same thing for these ones. Again, they're all connected and all in their designated slots. Absolutely love this style of having miniatures be stored. This is like has become my favorite way to open a box up and actually see a game presented, because not only do you have access to all the cards that you need at any given time, but the miniatures are right here. There's none of this tiered idea of miniatures on top, cards on the bottom, pulling everything out to get to one thing. It's all right here. Now, I guess in a way I lied. There is technically one small tray to remove to get to miniatures down below, but I guess what I was getting at was more so the typical box that you get from a crowdfunding campaign where maybe the miniatures are on the very top and it takes up an entire tray across the entire box, or it's maybe a tray at the very bottom, and either way you have to basically remove everything out of the box just to kind of get to the different pieces you need. Having things open like this to grab when you need them is very nice. And that, my friends, will wrap up this in-depth look at the Tinkering Paws insert for ISS Vanguard. Again, you can choose whatever color you want for this insert. They have different colors available on their site, so if you want a different color versus the one you saw here, that's a-okay. I have those 2 coupon codes. Don't forget to use them when you pick it up. And also worth mentioning, it only works on the website. So make sure you head to the website. The link and everything else that you need is in the video description and pinned comment. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you playing ISS Vanguard? Have you completed it? Do you still continue to play it today? What are your thoughts on this insert? Are you thinking about picking it up? What do you think about what you saw? Would love to hear your feedback down below. And as always, keep on rolling solo.